because, you know, my heart and soul is community. My parents are givers, and so that's what I grew up doing. It's hard to delineate between business and community work because it's so intertwined, and that's the reason why I got into the field.
But before we even get into any of that, I wanted to just kind of talk about you and how you got started in this field and what it took to get you to where you are. And just talk a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Okay. So I am Dr. Truth, Ngonzi Truth Crushshon. I was named after Sojourner Truth. I was born on the south side of Chicago in Crushshon, actually.
Okay.
But my parents' church, my dad is a pastor and my mom is a principal. Both of them are principals and educators. And so I was homeschooled in Inglewood.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
So that's where everything began.
All right.
And so my parents per se, you know, we're not a big mega church or anything like that. We're more like a community staple.
Okay.
And our church is right on the corner. People come for various services and we do a lot of generational work, let me say that.
Okay.
So a lot of outreach with youth. My dad grew up without a dad. And so he thinks that it's very important to reach our young Black males. And so he does that through sports.
Okay.
So basketball, baseball, or any type of community or after school program. He also teaches chess. And my brother now teaches tennis, you know,
cool.
So it's just a way to reach the youth because we know, and my dad started off his ministry in New York, in Harlem, actually.
Oh, okay. So he got to see firsthand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With men and substance abusing men who were in recovery. And, you know, they've done all this research with studies with rats because they use rats to see if rats would be addicted to the same drug or not. So they give them the drug, they give all the rats the drug, and then the second trial is, okay, this time they don't just put the drug in there, they also put something else. So something recreational, which is the little wheel.
Okay.
And a lot of the rats that are now addicted to substance abuse will still choose the wheel over that addictive substance.
I'm a psychologist with Simon Fraser University.
Bruce and his colleagues even tried an experiment where the rats in cages were giving nothing but morphine-laced water to drink for 57 days straight.
In other words, we made sure they were good and addicted. In terms of the conventional expectation, every one of those rats should have been addicted for the rest of its life.
But when they were placed in Rat Park, those same addicted rats generally chose to drink the plain water and voluntarily went through withdrawal.
Right.
And so they used that research to go and apply that to substance abusing men, and substance abuse in general and recovery.
Right. Okay.
And so that's one of the mainstays that my dad started off with and he continues to do today. Because when you give people, when you present people options, even in limited environments, even with limited choices, if you give them the environment to continue to do drugs and feel hopeless, you know, worthless and all these things, or to do something
have
that
an activity.
Exactly. And they still choose that, then we're defying stereotypes now, right?
Exactly. Right.
We're changing our self-concept. We're developing self-efficacy, all these things. I'm gonna talk about those later, which are protective factors for us, right?
Right. Right.
I'm gonna try to get already.
That's super interesting though. Yeah, because I mean, we don't really think about what not having programs and activities in our communities, like the major impacts those have. And that's interesting. I had not heard of that study. But I would definitely be looking further into it. So that's where you got your start. That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about you as a person and, you know, how you connected with your field and wanting to work with people's mental health and helping them in the capacities that you can.
Okay, I really didn't at all. I thought that the field of psychology was a white male psychologist that had a white woman laying on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the luxury as Black people to lay on anybody's couch because we work too much.
Right.
Taking care of too many people's babies, our own and other people's. So it was not until I went to Fisk University and one of my professors, who was a Black woman and also a preacher's child, was a psychologist.
Oh, nice.
And she married together. Exactly. She married together community, which I was used to doing, all the community work, with psychology. And it was actually a class called Family Centered Community Building. And that's when I knew that I wanted to become a psychologist. Other than that, I didn't know what a psychologist was or that I could be a psychologist. I didn't know a Black psychologist.
Yeah. So speaking of that, can you define for our viewers, what is a psychologist and what can they expect when they see one?
Okay. So I'm a licensed eligible psychologist, which means I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. And so the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist is that a psychologist will provide testing, psychological testing. So we're talking about IQ testing, we're talking about academic testing, any type of testing, bariatric testing for weight loss surgeries, any type of assessment that assesses you for your intellectual or cognitive functioning to see where you are in comparison to other people.
Okay.
Also therapy. We provide therapy, individual, family, groups, all of those things.
Okay.
But a psychologist is basically the highest that you can go in the therapeutic arena.
Okay.
Psychiatrist is a medical doctor.
Okay.
They provide medication.
All right.
So that's the huge difference.
Okay. And that is a big difference that I don't think we think of. And so the question about evaluations, would that also include school-age children who might need, like, to figure out if they have ADHD or Asperger's?
Yeah,
same thing.
All of that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, where we're talking anything, even when we're talking about babies, to determine if they are on track for meeting their developmental milestones as well as cognitive. So we can't really assess cognitive, but we can assess developmental at a young age.
Got it. Like motor skills and stuff. Got it. Would you say that what you have going, because I know when you were here and we were doing work together, by the way, Boss Squad, Dr. Truth actually has written quite a few articles for UMAG that you can find on our blog, and the information was invaluable, and like especially the one about SAD, seasonal depression. I want to know, have you built more on that? Do you plan to? And what is basically going on in the way of your brand?
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to write on SAD. I think that was my first article on SAD, actually. And I think I don't think we bring that to the forefront of our consciousness a lot. When we think about the seasons and how that affects our mood or the climate, because we are an African people and we come from sunshine. So in Africa, we had sunshine, but now we moved to colder climates like Chicago. That's why I probably moved to Atlanta.
A whole few months of just darkness.
Exactly. And coldness, and sometimes the temperament matches the environment that we're in, and so that really matters. Especially when we talk about nature or nurture. Right. Sometimes it's both. But I have not done any other work on SAD right now. I've been focusing a lot of my work on stress reduction and what's going on in our communities right now with Black Lives Matter. So yeah, that is my brand. My brand has always been centered on social justice. Like we talked about. And so it's always about helping the underserved. Throughout my entire program, they continue to tell me that I was a social worker and not a psychologist and not a therapist. But again, when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to meet those basic needs before you go up to that, to that pinnacle, right? So we have to have shelter, we have to have food, we have to have safety, all these things that continue to be challenged as we talk about Black Lives Matter, as we talk about not feeling safe in our own communities or with people that are there supposed to protect us. Right. Whether those are our family, our parents, or the police, or our schools, or our teachers that sometimes hurt us. So that we're continuing to go back.
Right.
Not backwards, but just going back.
It's just sliding back. Right.
Like Sankofa, we're going back.
Right.
Do some things over.
Right.
Exactly. See what we need to review so we can move forward healthy and whole. So that's a part of the brand. So I just finished a program with the National Urban League on congressional advocacy, because it's not just the individual therapy.
Right.
We have to change the system. And I think Dr. Joy DeGrundy talks about that as well in her book, where it's a twofold, it's a two-pronged approach where we have to, we have to get our own healing, the individual healing, the communal healing, but we also need to change the system. And
so we don't have to keep going through it over and over, right?
Exactly. Or not at the same extent if we change some of the laws that are impacting the majority versus just working with the few that may make it into a therapy office.
Absolutely. So you brought up Dr. Joy DeGrundy, and I asked you the question about her theory involving post-traumatic slave syndrome and how you see that is being, that's being triggered by what we're experiencing in society today.
And what I did was I started to look at the African American experience, starting with slavery, as a real clear, long enduring trauma. So I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African American experience. I started to see common behaviors that I took for granted as, well, cultural. There's adaptive behaviors, survival behaviors.
Of course we are. I think we have, well, it's hard to say you're being triggered if you're living in triggers.
Right.
Trigger world, triggeredom. I'm making up words.
Exactly, triggeredom.
Yeah, maybe that's like a Marvel adventure. But yes, we are living in trauma since we've come to America, or been brought to America, not come.
Been brought, right.
Unwillingly,
right.
Most of us, to America as slaves. And that's not, again, I'm always going to say this, that's not where our history started. It does not mean that all Blacks are slaves.
Absolutely.
Because we were not.
Can we talk about Mansa Musa? That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. And the kings and the queens. Come on.
That's right.
And all the things that we built before that. But we're talking about trauma. So I'm going to touch on the trauma, trying to stay focused. So yes, some people, we have not healed from slavery to begin, for one. And then we have traumas on top of that, multiple traumas, okay? She talks about generational traumas, but there's also traumas on top of that. We have personal trauma, okay? And so that's what I've seen. When I first started at Community Mental Health Council, I met children, teenagers and younger, so I work with 10 to 17-year-olds in the juvenile detention center, as well as foster care. And so we're talking about multiple traumas. So it was very rare for me to meet with a child that did not have at least 3 to 5 traumas.
Right.
And this is ages 10 to 17.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Right. Formative years.
All right. Exactly. The formative years when our brain is developing and we don't have a safe place.
Exactly.
In this.
So what does that create? Exactly. Right.
It creates fear. It creates mistrust. We don't even know who to trust in or outside of our families. And Dr. Joy talks about that as well, where we don't know who to trust, and we don't trust people that look like us.
Right.
We don't trust people in our own families and friends.
Exactly.
And so when we talk about now, if we're going to flip, and I don't even want to go there, but we're going to flip to community and how sometimes we see ourselves as the enemy. Sometimes we're internalizing that, and that's internalized racism, right?
Yeah.
Again, what the system has taught us, and that's also what they taught us in slavery.
Exactly.
They taught us several things, but one that they did a really good job is to hate everything Black, including ourselves and Africa.
Right.
And so guess what we need to do to help change that? We need to love everything.
Exactly.
See this?
Exactly. That's right. Love it.
And I love your hair too.
Okay?
We have to get back to our roots. We have to get back to the ground. We have to get back to our mindfulness and get back to our yoga and get back to our spirituality.
Exactly.
And get back to our
See
culture
my ancestor
and values. We're talking about Kwanzaa principles. We're talking about Ujamaa. We're talking about Maa principles.
Exactly.
We're talking about all the things that matter, that are internal and intrinsic to us as a people, that keep us strong and motivated and going, even when we have 15,000 traumas. We could have been and should have been dead, because when our other brothers of the other color and sisters, they jump off bridges when they lose their 401k.
Right.
We could have lost the 401k, our mama, our daddy, our
exactly.
brother.
And still get up and go to work the next day.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
So when Black Lives Matter came and when the pandemic came, yes, we are dealing with it, but we're dealing with it from a different threshold than other people, because this is kind of baseline for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
doesn't mean that it's normal. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
that
no.
That it's baseline for us, and so that means that it may take a little bit more to take us to the same point where it may take somebody else a little bit less, and that's a generalization. That doesn't mean everybody, because very poor if you don't have the coping skills, then you're going to be at a higher, when we're talking about young people, brains are not developing, and they're moving adolescence back all the way to late 20s now. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about our brain development and risk, and how much risk and
we would be willing
how
to
much risk tolerance and death tolerance that we can take. Especially males may be more risk averse than females, and younger may be more risk averse than the older generation.
Right. That's very true. This is such a good topic for us to kind of talk about when we talk about going back and understanding our roots and where we come from, and how that can be a mechanism for healing. Tell me, have you seen Black is King yet by Beyonce?
I have not.
David.
I posted it on my page though.
Check it out as soon as you can, because I bring that up because and you'll see it, but that's basically what's happening there, and this is a dedication to her son. And I just think we all need to kind of see that and look at the fact that healing can be had in visiting with the ancestors. I keep pointing back, here's my ancestor altar behind me.
Mine is right here. It's on the floor. I'm bringing one thing. I'm bringing two things, actually. Since we talk about the ancestors, let's bring Aunt Jane.
Nice.
She gave me this when I was little. Okay, now it's a million things in here. Let me take that out. But it's a musical box.
Okay. Awesome. Hold it up a little bit. Nice. That's beautiful. And this was from your Aunt Jane?
My Aunt Jane.
Tell me, let's call her into the room.
Yes.
Tell me about her. Why did she give you that?
Because I was her baby. She couldn't have children. She was my godmother. These are her earrings too.
Oh, nice. Okay. Beautiful. Those are cute.
Thank you. And so basically she was my mom's close sister, and she raised me like her child. And my first job was working at her grocery store on 83rd and Carpenter at Hollis Corner Grocery. That's where I learned how to be a businesswoman.
Okay.
Because they train us to be psychologists, but they don't train us for business.
No.
But she taught me almost everything that I know about business.
Awesome. Tell me one of the main things that you carry with you every day from what she taught you about business?
To treat everybody right, and no matter what they can or can't do for you. So she always spoke to janitors the same way, and servicemen and women the same way. She always spoke with people that were substance abusing that would come to her grocery store and treated them with the same respect, still called them Mr. or ma'am, never treated them any other way, the same way as a paying customer or somebody else that may not have had the same status as them. Okay, so she just taught me to be human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. I love that. So going back to you, tell me something that you do for yourself either on a daily basis or just often for joy?
Okay. Oh, wow. So I just restarted doing my morning pages, which is writing 3 pages a day, just of my free-flowing thoughts. And I'm using the book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way.
Okay.
Now, I don't consider myself an artist at all, but I love journaling.
Right.
So
You was hooking those articles up. You're an artist.
Yeah, I know. I know. But she talks about that too, how where most people are raised and the artist part is shunned. Like you can't be that in real life. They can't be
That's not going to make money or
exactly.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be a starving artist. But
Right.
I'm moving into that now.
Okay. Awesome.
I guess that's it.
Okay. So that's one really good thing. You have something else?
Right now I have started taking sacred baths.
Okay. Talk about that. Let's talk about that.
That's a new practice. I have a book actually. Now I can't remember her name. I'm about to run and get the book.
Okay. Sacred baths are very important. It's something that you can use to shift situations, to clear things, to bring things to you. There's all sorts of uses for them. So we're going to listen to what she says.
All right.
Awesome. So the book of Sacred Baths, 52 bathing rituals, revitalize your spirit, to revitalize your spirit. Awesome. Who's that by?
It is by Paulette Kaufman Sherman.
Okay. Paulette Kaufman Sherman. Got it. Okay.
All right. So it basically takes you through an experience because, bathing was a ritual in many countries. I know in Greece.
Right.
And I'm learning about other places as well. Like I'm starting to do more research on, the sacred time and feminine energy, period.
Yes.
So that's a new concept to me, per se. Again, because I grew up in Christianity. So now I'm just now moving into chakras.
Spiritual
exactly, into the spiritual realm. Different spiritual realms.
Yeah.
And so more essential oils. So she talks about different types of essential oils that you add to your baths and different spiritual guidance that you're bringing into your bathing experience. And you're asking and you're talking and you're asking yourself, like, what do I need?
Yes.
God, give me answers. And I'm asking myself questions before I go to sleep and I'm waking up with answers.
Yes.
When before, because we think, and I grew up thinking that God was outside of me.
Right. When it's
and that
right
God
in here.
was male.
Right.
And that God, I never believed that God was white because my dad always taught me that God was black.
Right.
But what if God was a black woman?
Right.
What if God is in me?
Right.
I am God.
Exactly.
Okay. So now it's changing my entire psyche
outlook on
everything.
Yeah.
And so if I'm God, then that means I have power.
That's right.
And that means I need to use my power to create.
That's right.
And that means every word that comes out of my mouth is a creation.
That's right. That part. See, and I hope you guys are hearing that. That is so vital that we understand that it is not some outside spiritual thing. It is within us, within each of us. And we have the power to be able to call that forward and do what we need. There's no way that I should be where I am right now with Urban Matrix on $0. You understand? It's, it's about me going to the source, asking for that, and knowing that I have the power to be able to do the work to bring it forward. Faith without works is dead.
Yes. So true.
Absolutely. That's so good. Oh my God. So tell me, I know you're in Atlanta, but Teladoc is something that can be used across the country. How can people get in touch with you to be able to have get resources, maybe have you direct them to certain resources or, through the work that you do down there in Atlanta?
Okay. So it's Dr. Truth and Associates.com and it's DrTruthAssociates.com. I have lots of resources on there, and I also have a directory where you can enter your zip code and be connected with a Black therapist, a female therapist, a Black male therapist, whoever you want. You also can call me And I will get you connected with whoever you want if you have questions, because part of my goals is to create a directory of therapists that people can purchase, and also a book so people will know who is the best professional if I won't need therapy, if I need, for this trauma, or I need sexual, trauma therapy, or if I need to go for testing for ADHD in my area, where can I go? Or just have specific questions that they may not know anyone else to ask. Because again, the same way I grew up not knowing one Black therapist or psychologist, other people may not know either. So if you just want to talk to me to ask me a question, they said this, and I'm just trying to see if they lie. Or should, because again, we're talking about trust. We're talking about safety. So if your insurance does not cover a Black therapist, for whatever reasons, if you're in some remote part of the country, I don't know, you can still run questions by me, because sometimes people are having questions about their children being on ADHD medication and should they remain. What are some of the natural ways to treat ADHD, and does my child need ADHD medicine for the rest of their life? And some of those questions vary depending on who you ask. So I wouldn't answer that question because I'm not a medical doctor, but I can direct you to somebody that
will
can
give you a good answer.
Questions, so you can get second opinions.
God, awesome. That's really good. So yeah, talk more about, so would you say that the directory is your goal for the upcoming year? Do you have anything else on the horizon?
Yeah, so this year, well, I didn't put it on my horizon. The pandemic put it on my horizon. The people, like in business, we know the customers tell us what they want. It's not us telling the customers what we want. So the customers are telling me that they need stress reduction. And so that's what we've been doing via Zoom. Since the pandemic started, about March or April, we've been doing those monthly. So we have a parent one coming up on, I want to say Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we're just going to be talking to parents about their frustrations and venting, and what support services and how can they get the tutoring that they need for their children, or the help that they need as a parent, because we've been in the house since March. To
kind of go back to what you were saying about your goals for the being able to help people and give information. Can they go on to your website to sign up for the classes, or what are they, workshops?
Yeah, workshops.
Okay, so can they go onto your site to sign up for those and see when upcoming ones are going on?
Yes.
Okay.
They can go to my website, or they can go to Eventbrite, Dr. Truth and Associates.
Okay.
And we have ongoing websites, also ongoing Zoom. But also they can follow me on social media. Okay. I am Dr. Truth on Instagram, and Dr. Truth and Associates on Facebook.
Awesome.
And also have a link on there for Black Lives Matter resources, because that was very heavy on my heart and our heart. I did a collaborative, and we're still doing a collaborative workshop, Zooms, with some other clinicians that are based in Miami.
Okay.
And so we have been reaching across the United States. And that's the point. That's one of the main goals, because it's not just unique to people in Atlanta. It's not just unique to people in Chicago. We are Africans in diaspora.
Right.
And that's outside of the United States, really. Exactly. So Zooms can reach everywhere.
Right. Absolutely.
And so we're just trying to spread the word for us, because again, we have dealt with multi-generational traumas for centuries. Now we're faced with another mass trauma of the pandemic, as well as police brutality. And so we have to begin and or continue our healing journey. And so it's lots of different steps that you can take on the website under Black Lives Matter. From journaling to music therapy, to listening. It's a whole playlist on there. Okay. So I'm gonna reach you wherever you are, because I'm a reader, but everybody doesn't want to sit down and read when they're traumatized. Some people want to listen to music. Some people just want to paint. Some people want to sing. Some people don't want to do anything. They just want to sit there. Okay, well, is this meditation?
Right, exactly. And so that's awesome. We can go to the website and look under Black Lives Matter for resources on what we can do about this issue that we brought up surrounding trauma and being triggered, and just the whole thing about police brutality. I really appreciate that information. That's going to be very useful for a lot of people.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So is there anything else in closing? Is there anything else that you'd like our viewers to know or to consider moving forward?
Yes. So I prepared this long thing. but I'm just going to have you go to my website. So I'm going to make it real succinct. Okay. And I'm going to say that we have risk factors, and it's not just for Blacks, but for all people, there are risk factors. They affect us more disproportionately than others, but we have risk factors, okay? And when I talk about risk factors, I'm talking about overcrowded homes. I'm talking about parental incarceration. I'm talking about parental substance abuse, low socioeconomic status, and I'm talking about poor communities, underfunded schools, anything that you can list, police brutality, all the things that usually exist in the hood.
Right.
Those are risk factors. But there is hope, okay? Dr. Carl C. Bell, who was my director and owner of Community Mental Health Council on the south side of Chicago, 87th and Constance.
Okay.
He talked about, and he was a Black psychiatrist. And he talked, so he came from the medical model, and he talked about why are risk factors not predictive factors. So just because you live in the hood, it doesn't mean that your life is doomed.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because there are buffers there. They're called protective factors. That's what helps us. That's what helps one Black boy get out of the hood and the other one not, because one had protective factors. So those protective factors, and I'm going to send you this.
Okay.
Those protective factors are the adult as the protective shield. So even if your parent is not there to protect you, was there a teacher? Was there a pastor? Was there a neighbor? Was there a cousin? Anybody to protect you, to look out for you when you were young, to give you that safe space. That helps. And there are 7 other ones that he gives. And one I think we talked about was self-efficacy, where we're talking about when we're doing this trauma work in our Zooms, we're not just talking about, oh, woe is me. Yes, we have to do that. We feel our feelings. We feel our feelings. But we don't do learned helplessness. We're not doing that. We're not gonna stay there. We can go there, but we're not gonna stay there.
We're leaving, right? Exactly.
We're gonna pivot. We're gonna just like with the models. See me NATO. All right. So that's what we're talking. That's what we bring up self-efficacy, and self-efficacy basically says, what is our call to action? Okay. What can I do, even though I'm faced with the Ma'afa? Even though I'm faced with Black Lives Matter and police brutality, even though I'm faced with poverty or not having my refund check if I'm a student, or my stimulus check if I'm a struggling parent, or my unemployment check that just got cut, okay? Yeah. What can I do? What is in my power to do at this time? And so that's what we're talking about. What can I do? Can I call my politician? Can I find out who my politician is? Can I get registered to vote? Can I vote? Right. All those things. And it doesn't have to always deal with voting, but it's something that you can do in your community. So a lot of people now are creating their own gardens, growing their own foods. Okay. So that's helping to reduce grocery costs, is it not?
Exactly. Yep.
Something that you can do that's in your power. Yeah. And so that's what we're doing. We're empowering communities. We're empowering people. So you don't have to just lay down and die. We're not doing that. Right. Okay. Right. Yes, we could choose the substance abuse and the drugs, or we could choose to have some fun on the little.
Exactly. Have somebody's life. Exactly. Keep it rolling. Awesome. That is awesome stuff. I really appreciate you taking this time with me today. And giving us all these pearls of wisdom, really. I mean, even for me, just sitting here, knowing some of the things that you talked about, it's easy to forget. You get into the swing of life, and it's easy to forget these things. So it's great to have a reminder. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.